why trying to calm down actually makes anxiety worse. Hello and welcome back. My name's Venerina and this is the V2V channel. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to calm down, the more anxious you feel? You tell yourself to relax and you try and control your breathing. You even try to stop the thoughts, but instead of getting better, your body feels even more tense. This happens to many people. And the reason is not that you're doing something wrong. It's because anxiety doesn't calm down when you try and force it to disappear. It only calms down when your nervous system feels safe enough to let go. When anxiety appears, the first instinct is usually to stop it. You might think, I need to calm down. I can't feel like this. This has to go away right now. And this reaction is completely understandable because anxiety feels uncomfortable and sometimes it feels even frightening, especially if it causes panic attacks. So the mind tries to regain control as quickly as possible. But the nervous system doesn't respond well to pressure. In fact, urgency can send the opposite message. It can signal the body that something's wrong. And when the body thinks that something's wrong, it goes into survival mode. One of the biggest misunderstandings, in fact, about anxiety is the belief that it can be solved only through thinking. And people try to reason with themselves and they try and convince themselves that everything is fine. And logically, that may even be true. But anxiety doesn't come from logic. It comes from a nervous system detecting that there's a possibility of danger. And when the nervous system is activated, the body prepares to protect itself. So your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your breathing changes. And this happens automatically because once this state begins, you're actually in fight or flight, as everybody commonly knows it. So telling yourself to calm down doesn't switch it off. Because the part of the brain that is responsible for survival doesn't respond to commands. It only responds to commands of safety. So when you try and force yourself to calm down, your nervous system may interpret that as urgency. And urgency actually feels like a threat. So the body tenses even more. The mind becomes more focused on the symptoms. And then you start checking how anxious you feel. And this creates a kind of loop. You notice the anxiety, you try to stop it, the symptoms become more alert, and you feel more anxious. And it's not because you're weak. It's because the nervous system thinks it needs to stay prepared. Many people with anxiety fall into what could be called the control trap. The more uncomfortable the feeling becomes, the more they try to control it. So they try and monitor their breathing, they try and monitor their thoughts, they monitor their body. And this constant monitoring keeps the brain focused on one question, and that is something wrong? As long as the nervous system keeps asking that question, it stays in alert mode. Real calm usually appears not when we force the feeling to stop, but when the system no longer believes that there's something to fight. The nervous system actually relaxes when it detects safety, and not when it's ordered to relax. And safety can come from very simple signals. Slower, more natural breathing, grounding in the body, being in an environment that feels predictable and safe, feeling understood by other people, allowing the sensation to exist and pass without panic. It's only when the body feels that there's no danger happening that it gradually reduces the alarm response. And this process is much slower than we'd probably like, but it's also much more stable because the system is not being forced. It's learning that it does not need to stay on high alert all the time. So A different way to respond to anxiety might be, instead of asking, how do I calm down right now? You could ask, how can I help my nervous system to feel safer? And that shift changes the whole approach. You stop fighting the feeling, you stop judging yourself for having it, and you begin to work with the body instead of working against it. And paradoxically, this is often when anxiety starts to ease, not because you made it disappear, but because the nervous system no longer feels threatened by the feeling itself. So, if trying to calm down sometimes makes your anxiety worse, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It means that your system, your nervous system, is still in protection mode. And protection mode doesn't switch off through force. It switches off through safety. When the body feels safe, the mind becomes quieter. When the nervous system settles, the anxiety naturally begins to fade. Not all at once, and maybe not perfectly, but definitely gradually over time. And that is the beginning of real change. If you found anything in this video interesting or helpful, then please, I'd like to invite you to have a look at my V2V method. The link is in the description below. So all that remains is for me to say thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself.